and you have rights here as well. And in my opinion, you have a right to be heard regarding bond. The issue is that Mr. Brown can't really speak on your behalf because of this situation that he's in. I want to give you the opportunity to speak if you'd like. Now, I don't want you to feel that you have to, okay? I'm not going to ask you questions. I'm not going to put you on the spot. But if there's something you would like to say, if there are concerns you have, then I'd like to hear them.
The issues have been over 10 years. Started before I lived in my property. I lived there 8 years and then purchased it in 17.
Okay.
Because of all of the vandalisms and pictures and arson on the house, I am very concerned and worried.
You had an arson?
Yes. When my grandson lived there.
When was that?
It would have been before I moved off the farm. It's been almost 10 years. And
10
it's
years.
been stalking and running my grandson wherever he moved to in 2 places.
Okay.
He was stalked, horns beat, happened on the farm for 10 years. And when before Gary, and I asked and reported some, and I said, well, look, my car, I just got it out of the body shop from here. And I said, the next morning I wake up, and there's silver paint sideswiped on the car. And I said, they asked me, well, you can't prove it. Can you prove the paint matches? I said, well, it's silver, same as the whole car. That's all, sir.
Was the alleged arson reported to the authorities 10 years ago?
Yes.
Did they investigate that?
I think they did, but nothing was, somebody had to do it. Somebody did the vandalism on my property, and I've had a lot.
Okay. All right, Ms. Amos, I appreciate you being here today as well. Anything further from you, Mr. Malone?
Our position remains the same, Judge.
Mr. Brown?
No.
For the record, as would normally be the court's practice, I pulled Mr. Craig's criminal history to see if he had any. He has a speeding ticket, a failure to control, and a failure to properly use a hand signal when operating a vehicle other than a car. He has no criminal history. It's significant to the court that there is no allegations of threats of physical harm and no allegations of any acts of violence. Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to say one simple thing that happens when you get out in the yard trying to work and to do, and all of a sudden it's constantly watching from the hill. And then I'll get I don't know what I want to say, but, he'll cough to let me know he's watching from behind the trees. It's just sick stuff.
Okay. Here's the predicament the court finds itself in, gentlemen. Obviously, Ms. Amos has a right to be free from the type of conduct she describes, alleged conduct, if it can be proven true, if it can be proven that Mr. Craig did it. Other people have rights too, including Mr. Craig and the people that voted for him. And my concern is the court not being sucked into some kind of political dispute or used as a weapon to do things within village politics. And I'm not suggesting that's what's happening here, but I'm not going to have it happen here. So, that's a concern I have. Because, as you said, Chief, law enforcement shouldn't be used as an instrument of harassment against anybody, Mr. Amos or Mr. Craig. And the court's concerned about constitutional rights here. I mean, people have a right to express political differences of opinion at council meetings. People have a right to disagree and argue. The First Amendment does still mean something. So, that comes in here, especially when we're talking about elected officials. And how does the court make a bond that protects Mrs. Amos and her rights, but still affords the people who voted for Mr. Craig the right to be represented by him and affords him his constitutional rights to show up at a council meeting and complain about an alley if he wants to? So that's the predicament the court has. And I think this is what I'm going to do. Given the fact that there's no allegations of violence or threats of violence, I'm going to permit a recognizance bond. I think there's already been a cash bond posted. I'm not going to require any additional cash bond. The recognizance bond previously imposed in my absence when I was out with COVID is going to be vacated, and I'm going to require Mr. Craig to execute a new one. That bond is going to require Mr. Craig to obey the law. It's going to require him to refrain from harassing, intimidating, threatening, or physically harming Mrs. Amos in any way. It is not going to restrict his ability to have contact with her, as it seems to me that's likely to happen. And it's not something the court thinks necessarily needs to be prevented based on the allegations in this case. That's going to mean Mr. Craig can attend the council meetings and he can carry out his duties as a councilman for the people that elected him. What it means, though, is, Mr. Craig, no stalking, no harassing, no yelling from cars, no mowing grass under her property, no calling her names, no yelling at her. That the court would consider harassment. If you happen to be going downtown and you run across Miss Amos, that's not going to be a violation.